Hey guys, it's Navell J. Lee, and welcome into a new BUZZCast here at Buzzworthy Radio. I had the pleasure of speaking with Joe Wein and Patrick Stump. They're involved in the documentary called 76 Days, which premieres this week at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. It's having two screenings, one on February 8th and then one again on February 12th. We got to talk about how they got involved in this project and this documentary itself. I'm a big fan of documentaries, by the way, and this was very intense, even for me. And we got all into that, plus a lot more in our interview with Joe Wein and Patrick Stump, who you also might know as the lead singer of Fall Out Boy. Take a listen. Joe Wein and Patrick Stump, and I'm very excited to talk to you both today because I actually did get to watch the 76 Days movie. And
Great.
can I just say that I was very, very scared throughout most of the movie. I was scared for parts of the movie because I literally was sitting there with trepidation going, how in the hell is he going to survive this? Because there were just certain points where I just literally just freaked out. I literally freaked out, and that was just, and I think the music helped with that too. So Patrick, thank you for that, for all of that, for making me more scared than what I needed to be, probably.
Do what I can.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for watching it. I appreciate it.
I'm a big fan of documentaries, so this was already in my wheelhouse as it was. So I immediately was going like, "Oh my God, please let me watch this right now." So I set aside time to watch it, and it was just for you, Joe, to actually take this project on, which is from also the book Adrift, 76 Days at Sea, and following the real life story of Steven Callahan, who has been, for those who have not heard of this story, Steven Callahan, it follows his life and death situation being in a raft in the Atlantic Ocean for 76 days. And just watching it from his point of view, you had the reimagination. How do we call it? Do we call it the redramatization in this case, or do we call it the?
yeah, there's some recreation in it. It's definitely, it's a mix of all, the main narrative is Stephen telling his story, and then we have 8mm footage, we have old photos, illustrations, and then we did some recreation actually with Stephen's help to make sure everything was authentic and done correctly, and got all the original raft and all that kind of stuff. Um, it's an inherently real visual story. He explains this stuff, and when you're reading it, you kind of can't. It's hard to necessarily imagine everything that he had to do unless you have a sailing background.
Mhm.
And so he actually has illustrations in the book, and so I know when after I read the book, I was kind of looking for a documentary like this because it's such an engrossing story, and it's even beyond the adventure, such a sort of a human spirit story that it really sucked me in. But I was visualizing it, and I expected there to be something like that existed, and there wasn't. And then it was like later when after I was watching like Life of Pi again with my kids, and I saw that he was actually involved in he was a consultant on that. Ang Lee brought him on, and I was like, oh, this guy's still around.
Yeah.
So I that's when I contacted him to get this going, just to actually make this movie I was kind of hoping to see. Um, I do, because Patrick's here too. I do want to talk about just what a huge part the music ends up playing in this movie. There's so many things that it has to bring together, and it's kind of the small story of this. This guy telling his adventure, but then we really get brought into this epic, really worldwide journey, and it's what he's thinking and what he's feeling,
Oh yeah.
and there's just so many things to pull together on it, that not only is there sort of like this sort of quantity of music. I mean, Patrick creates music for the whole thing,
Hmm.
but there's this huge diversity of music as he's going through all this different stuff. But it really is a defining part of the film. Like it's what he's thinking, what he's feeling. It's an epic range of music that really ties this movie together. So we were very fortunate to have
Thanks.
Patrick here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
I have to, I mean, honestly, I have to agree because it's one of the things that I say about anything when it comes to television shows or movies or what have you. The music makes the scene pretty much is what I say to them. And it really, I agree with you, Joe. It just really enforced what he was feeling, what he was thinking, what he was possibly saying while he was in that raft. And I love the fact that it was when you did the recreations, it was shot basically as if it was from Steven's point of view because you're seeing it from his eyes looking forward. I really thought that was the most interesting piece of that.
Yeah,
And
but I that I loved too. That was one thing that really grabbed me was because it's you know, in a lot of documentaries you see a reenactment or whatever, and you see an actor that kind of looks like the person or whatever. This put you right in there, and it put
Mhm.
you right in the, and it made it more claustrophobic. It made it more terrifying, you know, to be in
I
the
mean, that's
raft.
what it was. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
But in that way, kind of like Jaws, when you're showing Jaws' point of view, that's also why the music's telling you how to feel and what to think. Like it really
Yeah.
plays such a part of we're in his mind. So
yeah,
and that definitely was kind of there's a great documentary called Touching the Void, and one of the things I thought was really good about it, even though they shot it real different, is the people's faces were always obscured, but we were seeing a first person, the guys looking right down the barrel of the
Mhm.
camera interview, and it's a similar kind of survival type of story, a very different story, but as a result, I was always able to keep in mind the narrator as the one doing it and never got like distracted by an actor. So part of it was like, how can we pull this off in that kind of way where I'm not distracted by someone playing Steven. We're just seeing Steven look into the camera, and then we're him in that situation, and you sort of vicariously feel it, and then get to visualize what he's talking about, what he's going through.
Yeah, I think that is a very accurate description of how I was feeling when I was watching it because I pretty much was at that point in Steven's shoes because of how this was filmed and how it was depicted with the recreation. It actually made me feel like I was the person sitting on the raft and I was looking at what was happening. And that's kind of also why I was scared because I sat there going, I could not imagine myself being able to survive that for 76 days with no food, no water, pretty much having to at that point towards the end drinking salt water because he had no choice, with everything getting the scarring, the lacerations, everything like that. And it was,
yeah.
to me,
Yeah.
I literally would have been that guy just sitting there going like, oh my god, I'm not going to get out of this alive. But he really had that strength and to the point where he was able to survive that incredible feat. And I major kudos to him and you, Joe, being able to capture that with this film and Patrick with the music of it. It really all it made me feel like I really was sitting there with him throughout the entire process. And I really thank you guys for being able to do that. Patrick, what was it for you when you got involved in this? How did you get involved in this? How was it presented to you, and your initial reaction when wanting to take this project on to do the music behind it?
Yeah. Well, so Joe and I have been friends for ever. I mean, I've been a long time, and he's been talking about doing something like this for a long time. So it was a natural thing that, when it came up, I was like, yep, absolutely. Um, but you know, any of the stuff I'd ever seen of Joe's prior to this had been scripted. So I didn't know what to expect with him as doing documentary. And I loved it. I loved it right away. I loved his pitch on it. I loved, his description. Steven is such an interesting guy.
Yeah.
Because and that actually was something I was excited about, was there's a challenge to him because this story is pretty harrowing, but he describes it like, oh yeah, and then a shark, came up by the, he has this way of just being so matter of fact about these terrifying things. And so that kind of put me in an interesting place as a composer because the action of what he's describing is thrilling,
Hmm.
but you also have to leave space for a guy to be describing it kind of, as if he was just, he went to the corner store that day. It's just,
Yeah.
he's just telling you what he had for breakfast, like, and and so what I ended up finding was I got really focused on the idea that it's just water everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird because, you know, you think about, I was thinking about, you know, horror movies where you're lost in space. Well, space, there's nothing for, you know, there's nothing for light years. There's water everywhere. And water is stuff. You know, there's chance involved in that, right? There's something can go wrong, you know,
Yeah.
at any given moment. And there's constant waves, constant movement. And that I was both inspired and then scared because I'm like, I think that's gonna be music the whole time because we gotta, you know, there's gonna be movement the entire time. And so I kind of wanted to play with that, with the idea of like waves and kind of melodies and thoughts kind of coming in and coming out and just kind of, you know, this churning of things and this churning of feels and chords and, you know, so it was a really fun one to write. It took a long time. It took
Oh,
me
I believe it.
it was, I really thank Joe for his patience because there was a part there. I had been working on Merry Little Batman. I did a movie called Merry Little Batman, and um,
That
and
was
I
you
was
too?
yeah. Um,
Did
and
not
so
know that.
so I was doing that score and I was doing this one, and I kind of had to like bounce back and forth between the two, and I felt really bad because there was a point there where I was like, Joe, I need a little bit more time. I hope that's
Yeah.
okay.
No.
But
It was amazing. Getting the music coming in was amazing. Like suddenly you started to see like, oh my God, this stuff is really coming together. It really just pulled it, you know, it's starting to really define the movie as well as elevate it. And it was so exciting to see it come in.
well, and you let me write some really. That was one of the things too. That's, you know, for me is really exciting is that, you know, as a composer, I don't, you know, when I'm helping somebody else tell their story, I don't know what it's going to sound like. You know what I mean? Until I see it, until I experience it. So as a writer, I get to be surprised. That's a really
Yeah.
neat thing as a
Yeah.
musician to like not, because usually you're in your own head, you're like, yeah, I do this thing. But because I'm, you know, writing for a moment, then I get to sit back and kind of hear my own music in a way that I wouldn't otherwise, you know, because it's not really my own. It's like, you know,
Mhm.
it's ours.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the way, and you know, it's the way Steven talks, you know, like there's little
Yeah.
moments where it
No, it
like
was
it
so
is,
specific.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, for sure.
Sorry.
And it's funny you said that about how with the sharks, I actually did catch that. He was like, "Oh yeah, a shark just swam underneath the raft." I'm like,
yeah,
bro, a shark just swam underneath the raft.
yeah,
Why are you just sitting there as if you're just drinking a cup of coffee? Like,
yeah,
like that was literally it for me. And I was going like, the fact that you just said that was just so calm and serenity. I was going,
yeah.
I'm
And then
like,
he kind of laughs it off. He's like,
how?
yeah, you know,
It is. I had no more flares left. That was it. And I was like, dude, you have no flares left.
And that vicarious experience is definitely what you get when you read the book too. You can't help but put yourself in there and try to sort of solve these puzzles and figure out what you would do, and then realize, you know, I immediately realized, okay, I'm totally unqualified. I would never, you know, like I would not have made it through the first night. You know, like
I would not have.
I would have made
There
some
was
yeah,
V
totally.
mistakes right
I could
away.
not
You
make it to
know,
the first hour, and I
yeah.
mean,
No, exactly.
I could not make it to the first hour. However, Patrick, I will give you credit to the fact that you might be able to last longer than me because you ate jellied eels. So I will give you
Yeah,
that.
I did do that one time. Yeah.
I'll just say that. So you have at least one up on me on that level.
Yeah, I could be adventurous with food. I could probably survive the food part. That's literally it. That's all I got. I think I would have died day one.
Yeah,
You know, but you know,
I'm right
but
there
I
with
could,
you.
yeah,
I can never
yeah,
say no to food, so I got you on that one too. So yeah, maybe we'll be neck and neck on that front.
yeah.
Uh, what was your reaction like when you found out that this was actually going to premiere at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival?
I was thrilled. It's a wonderful festival, and Claudia Puig, who is running it, she's amazing. She's a film critic for many years. Um, it just seemed like a real natural fit. It also happens to be a big sailing community. You know, the Santa Barbara Yacht Club's getting involved and all that kind of stuff. The book actually has a, you know, particularly huge following from sailors and that, and so that's very helpful for the story. But no, I was thrilled that it was going to be at the Santa Barbara Film Festival. I think that's just a great place to launch it and a great place to first get it out there to the world, you know, and start with our audience. So I feel very fortunate about that.
Great. Very excited for you guys for it. It's premiering 2 times. Well, it's going to screen 2 times. I
Yes, it's
believe
premiering this Thursday,
yes.
February 8th at 4 p.m. And then there's gonna be a second showing on Monday, February 12th at 8 p.m. So please come and check it out.
Oh, definitely check this out. It was a really great documentary, and I
Thank
I,
you.
I fell in love with it, and hopefully everybody will get the chance to do the same. And I really appreciate you both stopping by here and talking with me a little bit about this. This was fantastic. I enjoyed every aspect of it. Thank you so much. Joe,
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Patrick, awesome. And Fallout Boy, I believe you're on tour now, so I just wanted to shout that
Yep.
out if I'm not
Cheers.
mistaken. And my buddy Mark, he loves you guys. He's a big fan of Sugar We're Going Down.
Oh,
So
nice.
yes, I wanted to shout him
Uh,
out there for that as well. So
hi to Mark.
thank you guys so much. Santa Barbara
Awesome.
International Film Festival starts this week, this Wednesday.
This week, yep,
This week.
it's starting this week.
Yes, looking forward to it. Thank you guys so much. I really
Thanks,
appreciate
man.
it.
Thanks so much for having us.
Many thanks to Joe Wein and Patrick Stump for stopping by the BuzzCast today. 76 Days premieres this week at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival for 2 screenings, one on February 8th and February 12th. If you are in the area and love documentaries as much as I do, please check this out. You're going to love it as much as I did, especially for how intense it is. There's one aspect of this film that we did not get to mention during the show, and that was Patrick Stump's rendition of The Passenger, which was originally performed by Iggy Pop. This song, Patrick's version, is absolutely amazing, completely top tier. I wish it was online so we could get a way for you guys to hear it, but absolutely amazing, completely and utterly phenomenal. But that's it for me for right now. I'm Novell J. Lee, making sure you keep getting the latest buzz with Buzzworthy Radio by logging onto our website at buzzworthyradiocast.com. You can also find us on X at Buzzworthy Radio, liking us on our Facebook page at Buzzworthy Radio. We also just created an Instagram for the podcast at Buzzworthy Radio. You can also find me on my personal account at BuzzNad as well. And you can stream our podcast in 3 different places at Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and now Amazon Music. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.